You have one life.
Yeah.
And the days are getting shorter. You're running out of time. And so if you're sitting around wondering whether you should write that book, whether you should write that play, or whether you should get started into singing or start that band or whatever it is that you want to do, and you're just sitting around trying to figure it out, just start. You'll figure it out through the process.
Yeah.
You can't think your way through what the experience is going to be like. You have to do the experience, and then you will gain the knowledge.
Welcome to The Roll Call, the podcast where we dive into the roles that define us. I'm your host, John Glom. On each episode, we explore the journeys of people discovering their true roles in life, business, and beyond. Get ready for inspiring conversations about finding purpose and authenticity. Let's roll the roll call. Welcome, everyone. I've got on the show with me today Armando Leduc, visionary,
Howdy.
entertainer, entrepreneur extraordinaire. And I got to say, I ran across Armando, hasn't been quite a year yet, at Visionary Summit, and was totally enthralled with your energy and your attention and everything that we've been working on since then. And you know, and for my podcast here, I know I wanted to have people that have had an impact on my life. They've played a certain role in my life, and that's why you're here, man.
I appreciate you having me, man.
I love having your energy, and I can't wait to see where this thing turns.
Yeah, it's gonna be great.
I could start asking you to tell me a bunch of cool stories, because you got about 1 billion of them.
I do. I'm a storyteller. That's what I do. I'm just geared that way.
Yeah. And you know, and also Armando was on this show because he's the one that's pushed me out of my comfort zone to start this podcast.
Yeah.
And act as if I do matter, and I'm a human that should be putting myself out there in the universe. So,
what a beautiful
an
thing.
immense thank you. No, absolutely.
Yeah, I was in a conference for public speakers, and I had heard it sticks with me to this day because it was such a powerful statement. And he said, "Don't allow your own hangups to keep you from sharing your message to the world, because we could have the same message. I'm talking about exactly written the same way with the same apostrophes and periods and the whole nine. When you say it, it will resonate with a completely different audience. When I say it will resonate with another completely different audience, right?
Yeah.
David Goggins, people love him. Other people are like, this guy's too much. You know what I mean?
Right.
I love him, you know, and so there's place for everyone. There's an audience for everyone. You never know who you're going to impact. One video can change the course of so many people's lives. And it could be a 30, 45-second video that you hear and you're all like, oh my God.
Yeah, just hear it at the right time in your life when you need to hear it.
Yeah.
Right?
100%.
No, that's awesome, man.
So that's why I'm always pushing people to go, hey, what's your story? And don't be afraid to share it.
Dude, and I was going to ask you what your superpower was, but I'm going to share with you one of yours that I know of is empowering people to get past their comfort zone.
Yeah.
And like just jump in head first. To hell with it.
You have one life.
Yeah.
And the days are getting shorter. You're running out of time. And so if you're sitting around wondering whether you should write that book, whether you should write that play, or whether you should get started into singing or start that band or whatever it is that you want to do, and you're just sitting around trying to figure it out, just start. You'll figure it out through the process.
Yeah.
You can't think your way through what the experience is going to be like. You have to do the experience, and then you will gain the knowledge.
So true, right? Most humans get paralyzed with the planning process, right?
Yeah.
And it's just sticking your nose in and taking action.
I think it's trauma. I think it's trauma from growing up in could be a household, could be peer groups, could be schools, whatever, where you've been indoctrinated into a way of thinking, and that becomes your modus operandi, and you can't get past all of those people that have told you for years that your opinion doesn't matter, or put a lid on it or calm down. You know, me, when I was a kid, I grew up in a household where I was made to feel like there was something wrong with me, right? Oh, he's got ADD, he's got ADHD, he's hyperactive, he's got to put him on medication. Something's wrong with him. There's always, and so I was always told that it was my fault. It was you're an idiot, you're stupid, what are you doing? You have a 1.8 grade point average, you're not going anywhere with your life. And that's because they were trying to put me into a system that didn't work for me. It wasn't because I was stupid, just because the system didn't work for me. And I'm not, and I think that's where a lot of my grace comes from, because I forgave myself, right? And once I started forgiving myself for being, for have acted out in the ways that I did as a kid and as a young adult, all of the dumb and stupid mistakes that I made, I forgave myself for it, and I can move past it, right? And I don't think a lot of people forgive themselves. They can forgive others, but they can't forgive themselves. And because they can't forgive themselves, they can't move forward because they're holding on to all of that baggage. They just need to let go, right? Forgive yourself. You're a human being. You're gonna make mistakes. A lot of mistakes, especially when you're in your 20s.
Oh, absolutely. And actually, it was just another truth bomb you had yesterday when we were together. When you were saying you can't let your past predict your future, or a version of something like that, when we were, working through with how someone was not quite leaning into what's possible, right? Because of what's happened in the past, right? Yeah. Another superpower of yours is seeing that and having the humility and the grace that others could be struggling with it, and how do I help them through that?
Yeah, I get emotional when I think about it, because a lot of times people are like, "Oh, Armando, why are you dealing with this person? Why are you helping this person?" I'm like, because they don't know what their life could be like if they just had somebody believing in them, right? And so I try to believe in somebody before they believe in themselves, right? And so that way they can lean on my belief until they can believe in themselves enough to go, you know what? My opinion does matter. My life does matter. My perspective does matter. I matter, right? Yep. Shout out Bob Schenefeld.
Coach
I matter.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. And I'm going back to one thing you're saying about, us not forgiving ourselves. It manifests itself in how we treat others. Really, if we change our focus to someone who is really struggling, and let's just face it, they're being an asshole, right, to everybody. In most cases, they're hurting in some way, whether they want to say it or not, or acknowledge it. It is what they're dealing with internally, and they're using that version of defense to everyone else. And I think if we spend the time to think about what position they might be in, and have that mindset of you or saying like, man, maybe we should be thankful for being in their presence because they need some help. And instead of like, hey, get them out of here, it's how do we give them a hand to get past their own stuff, right?
Yeah, you're right. People, there's a lot of folks out there that are like, I am so bad at asking for help. Yeah. Right? We found that yesterday. Yeah. I don't want anybody's help. I don't want it. And that is because it's a limiting belief that you have that you're not able to give, right? Because if you start thinking about how can I give, then when you're ready to receive help, you'll receive it, right? But if you're not giving, if you're not in that frame of mind of like, hey, how am I adding value? How am I giving? How am I providing? How can I help? If you're not thinking in those terms, then yes, you will always have this barrier of, I don't need anybody's help. Well, it's probably because you're also, it's a transaction, right? Like if you're giving enough, then you'll be able to receive. And it's The Go-Giver. You read The Go-Giver, right?
No.
Oh, amazing book. Incredible book, The Go-Giver. But it just talks about like giving that giving first mentality.
Abundance.
Abundance and not doing things not me giving to you because later on down the line I'm going to get something from you. It's just me giving because I know that that spirit is an energy flow that comes back and forth. Whether I get it back from you, that's immaterial, right? I just know that if I keep giving, I am in a place to receive and be okay with receiving. You know, how many times do we get complimented and we're just like, oh. You know what I mean? Like, you start kicking the floor, you know, it's like, dude, just take the compliment, you know, but if you can't receive, you can't give properly, you know, and it's got to be a flow. It's always got to be that flow. And that's how money works.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. You know, reminds me because I think many times we're taught, I know you're in a military background, you know, family.
Yeah.
And, you know, many times we're taught to be humble, right? Or again, I was a high flying kid as a kid too. And I had people tamp me down a little bit, like, you're not that great, buddy. Just, you know, wait till you get to the big fish, you know, the big pond. And so you try to work on your humility, right? And so it's just a fine line of what like true humility is, or just trying to not be overbearing. But truly being humble is a far different thing than trying to mask. Like when you said, when someone gives you a compliment, you're like, nah, it's okay. Right?
Yeah.
No, that's what I was growing up to do. Like, nah, I'm good. Thanks. But man, did it make me feel good. Right.
Yeah.
So just make it feel good and enjoy it.
Yeah.
Right. And still do the humble thing. And
yeah, you're right. There is a fine line, right? Like there's, I remember hearing my mom say a German phrase. We grew up in Germany. Eigenlob stinkt. Right? Eigenlob stinkt means self-love stinks. Eigenlob stinkt. And I was like, and it was that was the thing.
Like,
that
be
like
selfish, or?
Don't be, well, self-love, like if you Eigenlob is like, it's almost the ego.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But like to me, when you hear Eigenlob stinkt, like self-love stinks, it's like, you know, well, yeah, it starts with here. It starts with this, because if this is okay, then I'm free to give, and I'm free to move and grow and shine, you know, and be the person, you know, did you read Gino's new book, Shine? It's amazing, right? It talks about like shedding all of the things that we have so that we can actually be the person that we want to be authentically and unapologetically, and getting to that place where it's all like, you know what? It's okay if I speak this way. It's okay. This is how I talk. This is how I am. And there's nothing wrong with that, you know, and learning that, not that you have to get to the point where you've gone all the way in the opposite direction, right? Where you're like the super ego and you're just, you can't be told anything, right? Like there is that fine line, but I'm talking to the people that are not allowing themselves to even get to that point because they've masked and put a lid on themselves for so long.
You know, how do we, I know we talked a little bit about something like this, right? Because we're very common in that we, voracious learners, self-improvement, like we're all in for whatever God's bringing us to like learn and do, right? Yeah. And not everyone's wired that way. Like, hey, you know, read this book. God, I don't want to read a book. You know, that's work. It's more work. Or with, you know, speaking of our roles in life, those that we also have relationships with, whether it's in work or outside of work, that might not be on that same page or same path. You know, I'm finding that at times I feel like they're the ones being left behind because we are trying to go do our own thing. And I really question myself sometimes. Am I slowing down enough to bring others with me? Or am I trying to make sure I'm so good inside that only others can benefit? It's speaking of another fine line, right?
Yeah.
Call it selfish. That can be a really, really bad word, or it can be a really, really beautiful word.
Yeah.
Right? Selfishly make sure I'm aware, make sure that I'm in a good place so that I can be better for everyone else.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Does that resonate with you on how to...
Yeah. You know, we're in the minority. You read Driven, right?
Yeah.
By Dr. Brackman, right?
Brackman, yep.
Yeah. We're in the minority. People that are super goal oriented and have this insatiable need to grow, right? I mean, that's that's why I think it's the responsibility of visionaries and people like us to, be the motivating forces, be the role models, be the people that people can look up to. And we're the wolves that protect, the flock, right? And understand that is the responsibility of a driven individual. That's why we are here. I think so. You know what I mean? Like, that's why I think, why, Armando, why do you help so much? Why are you trying to do so many things? It's like, that's why I'm here. I'm here. That's my purpose, and I'm here to help people understand that they can live their authentic, true selves and not have to be driven, right? Like, not everybody's this way. Not everybody wants to read books, and that's okay, But I will challenge them to be better, and I think that's why you do what you do well. And, what a blessing that we were able to start working together, and you've come into our organization with Bloom Growth and really have just created an environment for the leadership team that they're now starting to understand that they can step into those roles of leadership and understand that, I've got to change me and I've got to grow into that position in order for me to lead a team, right? And step out of the role of technician in order to grow a business for the vision of helping 1,000 entrepreneurs unleash their voices, right? So that they can go out and impact the world. It's like, you know what I mean? Like, it just a lot of aha moments that we've had as a result of working with you. And we're only 2 months in.
Yeah.
We're only 2 months in.
Just getting started, baby.
And it's like, but they're getting it, So kudos to you, kudos to the organization for having created such a beautiful system that helps visionaries like myself be okay with being visionaries. Right? Because you were like, hey, Armando, is Armando really going to be the guy to get this across the finish line? Has he done it before? No. Then why are you guys expecting him to do this again, right? Like, he's not going to, but let him live in the superpower, right? And we can all grow, and it's okay. Like, wow, what a cool thing, which is why I think the relationship that we have and what we're creating here is just going to be a super powerful thing.
Oh, it is amazing watching companies see the light.
Yeah.
It is, because again, we as visionaries, we see the end. We don't know how to get there, and we need people around us. And most of us, that's what small businesses are. And I do appreciate you saying, like, those that are driven, entrepreneurs, that's who's making this world go round, right? We're protecting the world, we're growing the world, we're educating the world, we're doing all these things. So entrepreneurs are I just admire entrepreneurs. Good, bad, ugly, big, small, whatever they are. Someone who's willing to take a risk and try, right?
Yeah.
And that's what gets us off the ground, is that start, that entrepreneur, the driven. But then in order to get past that, we got to get past ourselves and let others help us. And that's the hardest part for entrepreneurs to really grow, is to get it and understand. Because most of us, and then that culture creates of everyone else when we start small companies, everyone's doing 14,000 different things. And so they all think, well, you know what, I know how to do it, so I'll just do it faster than trying to teach someone. And that gets you to where you are. But to get to that next step is learning and leading that. Wait, if I slow this thing down, I bet Wilson can do this 15 times better than I can.
Yeah.
If with that focus. And it's just amazing and wonderful. And thank you for the opportunity to help with your team.
I appreciate you.
It's going to blow.
Here's my theory on visionaries, right? And why I think visionaries can't or don't get things done to completion. To your point, we see it all the way through, right? So in our minds, it's completed. We've already lived it. We know what it is at the end. So we're like, all right, we're on to another idea, right? And then the tenacious people, right? Because I know you're a working genius guy. The tenacious people are like, hey, what are we doing? We haven't finished. Like, what are you talking about? Like, let's finish this project.
Yeah, no, but I'm bored already.
I'm bored. I'm on to the next idea. Drives everybody crazy.
No, that's beautiful. So I know in our last session, you were saying that, hey, what you want to do is do another film.
Right.
And I said, so what are we doing here? Are we doing this business? Or you want to do a film?
You're good.
And you're like,
yeah.
no, this is it. But, and then so tell me the next, what happened after that? Back to.
Yeah, it's so funny because we were doing the BHAG, the big, hairy, audacious goal that you should have for your company, the big vision. And you're like, what's the end result? And I was like, well, I want to be writing, acting, and directing my own projects. You put the pen down. And you're like, all right, so what are we doing? Are we doing that or are we doing this? And I'm like, okay, wow. And then it gave me pause, but not too much because I was like, of course, this is what I want to do. Like, I love this. I love seeing people grow. I love seeing when somebody's first starting a podcast and what it looks like 6 months down the road. I got a phone call today from one of my clients that started the podcast and was like, Armando, what is the point of this? Why do I need to do this? And I was like, just give it time. I promise you, in 6 months, we're going to have a completely different conversation. He calls me and he's like, people are loving it. There's, he's an orthopedic surgeon and he's like, they're stopping me in the hallway at the hospital saying, I love this podcast. I'm getting really good value out of it. I started reading these books about, you know what I mean? And it's like, wow, what an amazing gift that we have been put in as a company to help amplify a voice, to help amplify a message with all of the clients that we have so that they can go out and affect, like they have their own group of people that they affect, within their nucleus. What did they say? 500 people max. Yeah. But with social media, it expands it. And then like these videos, they live for forever. Yeah. Like you might see a video today that was made 20 years ago that's like, holy crap, like Jim Rohn.
And just as impactful.
Yeah. Right. Do you follow Jim Rohn's page?
No.
Do you know who Jim Rohn is?
Yeah.
Yeah. Follow his page on Instagram. It's like all of his videos from the 80s, right? That like snippets that are just like master. Yeah. Like amazing. So it was such a good experience to get these calls that are like, hey, we're out there and we're affecting, we're affecting the world, and like, I just love being able to do that. So let me back up to the original question as to what I'm working on now and why that inspired. So this project, Life on Bourbon, is about 15 years old, and it has a very crazy past. So I was a MC on Bourbon Street for a long time. And I said, and I was an actor as well. I moved to New Orleans to be an actor, and I was like, I wanted a piece that I could act in, be the lead in, that I could use as the springboard my career. And I met a guy named Blake, and he said, and I didn't have money at the time, right? I was able to borrow about 15 grand, I think, to make it. He said, I will direct it. I will edit it for you, but I want to direct it. And I was like, all right, that's fine. Direct it, whatever. I want to just act in it. We shot 10 days. It was Mardi Gras. We were going to finish the show, 5 more days of shooting after Mardi Gras. The day we were watching the dailies, I remember I had gotten 2 big shrimp po' boys, and Blake was setting up, and he tripped over the cord of the hard drive, and the hard drive went flying, and he hadn't backed up the footage. So we lost everything. Lost all the footage, 10 days of shooting. And at the time, I was just like, it was kind of a defining moment for me. I was just like, oh my God, and all of these people were like, that had poured themselves into this project, like non-existent, sorry. So I moved to LA, and I was like, and I lived in LA for 9 months, and it chewed me up, spit me out. And then I realized LA has a really nice way of making you face yourself and what it is that you want to do. So I moved. I was like, you know what? I want to come back to New Orleans and make my movie Bourbon Whiz. So I came back, made The Wizard of Oz meets Bourbon Street. And I was like, I have to finish this movie, because if I don't finish that movie, I will always be known as that guy that just starts things and never finishes. So it took me forever to get that movie across the finish line. Ended up, and Blake was in it. He was the crackhead in the movie. Few years later, he started transitioning into a woman. And he ended up taking her life. And we had always talked about redoing Life on Bourbon. So the project has a whole new meaning to it, to me. And then I lost another friend of mine who was a comedian who was also in the project. Lost him to an overdose. And so when I think about this project, it's one of these projects that if I don't do it, if I don't fix this, if I don't like make this, it'll be one of those like life regrets. And so when you put that in, I'd been sitting and let this be a lesson to anybody, right? That once again, I was not following my own advice about just get started. Just do it, right? Like, what am I was like, because I put so much pressure on myself for this project that I was like, oh, it's 15 years old and all of this story and it's got to be this and it, so the script has gone through like several revisions and I've never been happy with it. And I'm like, stop, just go and just do it. And so I got a writer. I'm just pouring into her like, hey, these are the characters, this blah, 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 blah. And then she's going to go and she's going to write it. And I'm not gonna, awesome. I'm not gonna judge it. We'll still tweak it, but I'm like, we're a production company. Let's go produce. Like, what am I doing? You know what I mean? And I can still run this company, but then I can still do my creative endeavors as well. Like, why am I sitting around not doing that thing that I'm telling other people and I'm preaching to them that they should start their thing? So. Thank you for that. I know it's a long answer to a short question.
No, man, because it's never a short answer, right? Yeah. I mean, that's the journey. And by the way, now all your stories are connecting. That we've been going through. And so I love that it means something different. It's not just doing a film, just because we said that you wanted to do a film. And what I also love about it, too, is it's not about or. Life doesn't have to be about or.
Yeah.
Life can be about and. Don't love distractions when we're trying to build a company normally, right? I want to say, hey, what's our niche? Like you've pushed on me. What the hell is your target market? What's your niche, right? But when things are still related, right? Like you said, your production company, this is what you guys do anyway.
Yeah.
It's not a far-fetched thing that we can go do all this stuff, which I think is great. And you have an opportunity to help. I know some of your employees still realize their dreams because, because they want to still scratch that itch of creativity and acting and things. So that's awesome.
Yeah, man.
Let's go with something, a nugget here.
Okay.
What do you think is one of your, I don't want to keep it in a negative light, but a failure for you that you've learned the most from?
The Life on Bourbon failure. I mean, that was
beyond just backing things up, you mean?
Right. Well, and my people know that they back up on 3 devices. You know what I mean? Like we have an SD card, we have a hard drive, and we have the cloud. Mm-hmm. That's non-negotiable. So yeah, you learn very quickly when that happens. So that's one of that was a huge learning experience, huge failure. And it's not a failure, right? Like I'm still working on it. Mm-hmm. I feel like failures or obstacles are opportunities to be great. They're opportunities for you to move to the next level. Whenever we're struggling, whenever we're, and I got struggles right now that I'm kind of going through, and it's reminding me that it is an opportunity. It is not the end. It is the beginning of a new life, because these are the fork in the road moments. Mm-hmm. We always, whenever I go back and I think about all of the fork in the road moments, all of the I got into it with one of the owners of the clubs that I was working on, on Bourbon. And I was lead singer of a band at that point, and life was great. I was making $1,500 a week, which for me was amazing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Got to sing every night. I was living just amazing, right? Got into it with this guy. He ends up taking over that club, and then he said, the band can stay, but Armando's got to go. So I get fired, like, from one day to the next. And I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do, right? What am I going to do? End up answering a Craigslist ad for an 80s cover band called Flashback. They were looking for a lead singer. I go in, audition, start working with them. We rebrand a few months later to Dap Band. Dap Band is born, right? We become, one of the best wedding bands in New Orleans, super recognized. Franchise that business, right? Where I had like 4 or 5 bands under the Dap Band umbrella, was scaling it up. And as a result, had I not gotten fired, I wouldn't have played the Fantastic Four rap party that my wife was in. And we bumped into each other at the rap party, and that's how we met, right? Well, we met at an acting class before. She didn't like me. Then we met at this party, and then we got together, and now I have my beautiful daughter. Yeah. And it wouldn't have happened had I not gotten fired, which I thought was the end of the world for me at the time.
Yeah. And you also became an entrepreneur at that time,
and
too,
then
right?
And I became an entrepreneur.
Which is still mind-blowing for me, right? Creatives, I love them. I'm not one of them, really, from like a artist, craft.
Yes, you are. You are.
Thank you so much.
You are.
I'm really good.
Everybody has creativity.
No, absolutely.
Whether I don't think that they view it as creativity. Your vision, your visionary capabilities are your creativity.
No, absolutely. Thank you for that. But from what others view as creative, whether it's filmmaking, artistry, whatever, right? So many people stereotype that as that's what they fall into, and they're, if you're a lead singer of a band still today, and that's what you did,
right?
Not many are jumping into, like you are, like now a serial entrepreneur in different aspects, right? And now you view everything that you do, and you have a different thought and idea about something, turning it into something constantly, right? And so, that could be a huge turning point. Yeah. Yeah. And I think, like you said, if you look at every opportunity, good, bad, or ugly, as a learning opportunity and an opportunity to start anew in whatever that means, it's amazing how the stress reduces when you look at it from that perspective.
Yeah, it really does start to go down. When you're in this situation, when you're in that challenge, when you're going through it, right? A lot of times you don't have necessarily the answers, and you're just sitting there going, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? What am I going to do? That is you going through it. At the end of it, the lesson will come. Right. You're not going to know. You can't know what the lesson is when you're going through it. It's after you go through it that you then gain the clarity and the knowledge. So be okay with going through it, and just, all right, this is the war. This is the struggle, and it's okay. It's not going to last, but, but embrace. I'm always like, all right, what am I learning from this? How am I growing from this? What is, what is this trying to teach me? What is God trying to teach me? How is this, I'm always constantly like reframing and reframing and reframing, where I'm like, what am I learning? This is not the end. This is just the beginning. I know I'm going to get something from this. Napoleon Hill says that, right? In every seed, within every failure, there's a seed of an equivalent benefit, right? And so what is the seed of the equivalent benefit? What is the born again thing that I will become from this fork in the road moment,
That nugget right there, that if the world and all of its people would just ask that simple question, when in times of, good and bad, they just stop, like, wait a minute, what am I here to learn in this? Because we most of us just run into whatever deep, dark emotion it is, or whatever, or self-pity, or backlash. And if the nugget there is just, if we just take a second, it's like, what am I here to learn? And I appreciate that. And if we can maybe have that in a conversation like we've talked about with others that we're about to go into a tense conversation, is maybe to start, I'm just clicking in my head, maybe we start with that conversation. Instead of I have that in my head, it's like, hey, what are we here to learn? And it could diffuse where things we're headed.
Yeah. Vocalize it. That's a good idea.
Because again, like you said, there's very few people that are seeing life in that kind of a lens. And so the more of us, and that's what I love about you pushing me into the podcasting world and in the social media game, is if we lift this tides, right? We're not going to do it one boat at a time. If we lift the tides of people just in their consciousness and how they view life, this world can get to the right place.
Yeah, it is in the right place.
It's right where
it already is. I think people, if you go, you will find what it is you're looking for. You will find what it is you're looking for. The algorithm of social media understands, and it's going to feed you what you're looking for. So if you want that, you're going to get that, right? If you think that the world is going to hell in a handbasket, you will very, very easily, you will find it. Mm-hmm. If you think that there's opportunity and abundance and there's light and there's it's just growth and all of, like just abundance, you're going to find that. You will. So you just got to put on the different glasses, put the different lens on, and start looking at the world in a different way, and you'll start to see. Terrence Howard talked about it on Joe Rogan's podcast, that he tries to find the God in everyone. He tries to find the God in everyone. And when you start changing that perspective and you go, oh, I see the light in you. I see that light in you, then everything changes. So look, I'm not perfect. You know what I mean? But like, I'm constantly trying to reframe every single day, and that's the work for me. That's the work, right? Is like reframing, and how am I viewing this, and how am I getting wiser, and how am I slowing down, and how am I tapping into the infinite, and how am I vibrating at a high frequency? And we saw Stephen Young at the Visionary Summit, where he talked about harmony and not necessarily compartmentalizing, viewing your life as a symphony, and your spirituality is the drums section, and your family life is the woodwinds, and your business is the French horns and whatever. And these things aren't going to stop. They're just going to infuse and weave in and out of your life. And that's the harmony of your life. And when things are disharmonic, is because they're not vibrating at that same frequency, which I thought was just mind-blowing.
You just brought me back.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Yeah.
Well, awesome, man. Well, thanks. What else can we share with the world today about Leduc Entertainment?
If you guys are looking to just grow, as an individual, if you are looking to impact the world and want to share your story and don't know really how, there's several ways you can work with us, from consulting with us to us, like really just like we're doing for you, just taking the whole thing and moving it through the process. So, you can reach out to us, leducentertainment.com. You can find me on all my social media platforms. We're super responsive. So reach out.
I'll tell you, Armando Leduc, you are the one your company is the one to help people see things that they can't see and push past it and take action. And that's what I hope everyone can reach out to Armando and his team and do that for yourself.
I appreciate
Armando,
it.
Thanks glad having you, man.
Thank you, man.
Thanks for tuning in to The Roll Call with John Glahn. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe for more insightful conversations. Remember, discovering your true role in life is a journey worth exploring each and every day. Until next time, keep defining your path and living your authentic self. This is John Glahn signing off.